Hey, welcome back, everybody. It's time once again for our weekly journey into the unknown. That's what it feels like sometimes here. Welcome to Living Hope, a weekly journey designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer. Sharing the real life stories of those really affected by this deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. With our host, she's the guide for so many on this journey here, Roberta Luna. Welcome.
Thank you, Paul. It's great to be back again. I really find I'm really loving this more than I thought I would. So,
We love hearing it.
thank you for that opportunity. Today, I'm really thrilled to have Stephanie Ruvalcava Hull with us. You can describe Stephanie in so many ways. She's a wife, a boy's mom, an advocate, great friend, and I think my favorite description is a control engineer. And you'll probably understand why a little bit later. And Stephanie, thank you again for being here and sharing your journey with us. I know sometimes it's difficult, but how old were you when you were first affected by pancreatic cancer?
I had just turned 29 years old.
Oh, so I wasn't sure what your age, and who was it in your family?
It was my maternal grandmother.
And what you were talking about her earlier, the type of person and such that she was. Could you just kind of give us a little description on your grandma and also her name, please?
My grandmother was Viola Galvin, formerly Viola Flores, and she was the original tomboy in lace. She was a spitfire, hardworking. She was a migrant farm worker, and she was actually the breadwinner for her family, and I don't think she really ever gets any credit for that. But she was the one that was really pulling in the income for her large family. And she later, became a mother and a wife, and she really ran her household. It was effortless, and she did it looking beautiful. I don't think I ever saw my grandmother have a bad day. And in pictures, I see her looking lovely and 100% all the time. That was, part of who she was.
I think you probably take after your grandmother, especially when you said the cowboy and lace part. That kind of struck with me, and the Spitfire. So I think you're a lot like your grandma, and I've never seen you look bad at all. So.
Thank you. That's a huge compliment. I think it would make her proud to hear that.
And when did your grandmother become ill?
So I remember her going to have endoscopy or a colonoscopy, and my sister, she calling my sister, and my sister taking her home, and I think it was shortly after that, and she got her results. So it was probably within the same year that we found out about her diagnosis, and I believe she knew before, and she was preparing herself. I think she was going to fight, and she might have even tried some treatment. That was never ever clear. My grandma was, she was a rascal. She liked to keep secrets. Everything was pretty personal. She let you know what she wanted you to know, and she kept everything pretty tight. I remember her asking me to take her to get a wig, and I thought it was for like a surgery that she never ended up getting. And she started taking these vacations that she would never have done before, like going to Europe and, small little vacations. She was, a party girl, so she liked to have a good time. So she took her one last trip to Laughlin, and she came back yellow, like they called her Tweety Bird, because she was so jaundiced. And they took her right to the hospital, and she was diagnosed, or someone came out and I gave her diagnosis, but she took it like she already knew.
So you think probably somewhere along the line, did she go for the colonoscopy just as, her
think-
regular checkup, or was she having some issues?
That's a good question, and I've never really thought about that. She might have not been feeling well, or it was just a routine, checkup. I'm not quite sure. She was in her 70s, so I'm not really sure what the care is, at that point, if you go on a routine basis, or if she wasn't feeling well. But she was, like I said, she was really private, so she wouldn't have mentioned something like that.
And after, how long after you all realized that it was pancreatic cancer did she survive?
She fought for 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
And I mean, I want to say that loosely because she wasn't going to give up, but she had decided to spend her time at home. She didn't want treatment, and she stayed, with us through Christmas and New Year's. And I think she did it on purpose because she didn't want to ruin the holidays for us. And that's just like her. I always describe my grandmother as having Christmas magic, and Christmas was the ultimate time for our family, and she made it so beautiful and so wonderful and memorable. I mean, I can remember Christmases as far back as 4 years old, and what she gave me and what she did for us. So I think she lasted through the holidays on purpose. She passed away on January 2nd of the next year. So she was really hanging on. But it was a tough 6 weeks. She didn't want any kind of pain medication because she felt it made her loopy. And so she went through her last days, weeks, just in so much pain. I remember her telling me, "Pray I die tonight." And every day I would see her at night before I left, she'd say, "Please pray I die."
It's a hard thing to go through because we pray that our loved ones that are going through it survive and fight, and then we get to the point to where we actually pray that it ends for them because of such of the pain they go through. I remember doing that for my dad, and my dad was the same. He wouldn't take any pain medicine because he wanted to be in full memory of things and have capacity, wanted to be able to talk and visit, and so he refused medicine. Well, and it's hard to watch them go through that. So it's very difficult. But how did your family feel with the thought that she didn't want to take any chemo or do any treatment?
Um, they were all upset. I remember being in the hospital, and I remember them being upset. And she asked me, she turned to me and she said, "What would you do?" And I said, "Well, on one hand, you could have treatment and you can live a little longer." And she said, "And I'll be sick that whole time and it's not going to save my life." And she said, "Would you go home?" And I said, "I would." And she told her children, my aunts and my uncles and my mom, "I just want to spend my time with Daddy at home," her husband, my grandpa. And so that's what she did. She went home. Everybody was upset. I had an uncle who thought that he could cure her.
Mhm.
And so he was forcing these protein injections into her, and people were making her eat. It's the same old story. People think if they feed someone, they're going to cure them or they're
Right.
going to keep them alive. And it was torturing her. At a certain point, it was just torturing her because she couldn't keep anything down, or it wouldn't even pass through. So um, yeah, they were upset. That's their mom.
It's hard to let go. And I think sometimes the best thing we can do to show love for somebody is to let them go. But it's not an easy decision, and it's very, very difficult. And did they finally come around and accept it, or was there anything?
I think at a certain point they saw how sick she was getting, with like the protein injections. Her doctor even made a house visit to go over everything again. I can't remember her name, and she was just an angel. And she loved my grandma. She treated her like she was her grandmother too. And she tried to explain to everybody again. My mom's a nurse, and my sister was, well, she had been a nurse for a while, so she understood. And so it was the rest of the family that was trying to kind of get a grip on what was happening. But even on her last breaths, my mom, even though my grandmother was a DNR, my mom gave her CPR because she felt like she had to do every last thing she could to save her mother.
Yeah.
That was one of the loves of her life, was her mother. And so she felt like she had to, even though she wasn't supposed to, because it was just one last effort. And letting go is so hard.
It is. It's very hard, and whatever it is that you can do to get through it's not wrong. So, I mean, I hope she's okay with what she did, and
I think
it's
she
just
is.
sometimes we just react out of love. It's hard to let that go. So these times were, I'm sure, difficult for you. So how did you deal with it all?
Um, I just showed up for her. the first time around, with caregiving, I didn't do a lot of like the physical um, uh, care. I did the emotional stuff. So I would show up after work, and my grandmother liked how I dressed, so she'd want me to like, model for her. And she'd want to try on the stilettos that I had on that day. So I tried to make sure I had something fabulous on. And I would read devotionals to her, or she'd want me to dance, um, tell her jokes, stories, getting her a cup of water. She wanted a beer. So, if she wanted beer, I was going to give her beer. So giving her beer, anything she wanted, I could be there until she went to sleep. And then I would leave. So I just took it day by day. And it was very sad for me. My grandmother was like a second mom to me. And if I couldn't go to my mother, in your teenage years, I could go to my grandmother and talk to her about things, or ask her for help, or, you know, um, she was really good about not taking sides with my mom or me. She just stayed neutral but would give advice. And so it was hard, but it was kind of like we were like swimming underwater, trying to get to like the edge of like you're in a pool and you're trying to get to the edge, and so you're underwater swimming. And I felt like that's what we were doing until, you know, her time came.
What is your favorite memory of your grandmother?
Of all time,
Yes.
there's a lot of great memories. Trying on wigs was a good one, but I'd say we took a trip to Mexico, and she liked to go swimming, but only at night. She didn't want anybody to see in her bathing suit, and she had a fantastic figure, but she was very modest. So she doesn't know how to swim, and at the beach we were at, it was shallow for a really long time. So we're out at night swimming in the beach, and or pretending. And my mom came out to like check on all of us, and she was pretending like she was swimming in the deep, and she scared my mother. And then she stood up and had a good laugh. And I just thought, gosh, at that time I was, I think, 12. I thought, wow, she's an old lady and she's still so funny. She was just a prankster. She was brave. We went parasailing. None of us really wanted to do it. We were so scared, but she wanted to. And so, that vacation, that entire vacation, she was so much fun. And I had a lot of time with her, like just us, no other families, just, us. And we really had that wonderful time with her.
And I'm sorry, what year did your grandma pass?
2006.
2006. And it's grief is difficult, and there is no time limit on grief. But I'm really happy to hear that you have a lot of happy and joyful memories that, though it's sad, but it also brings, tears to your eyes, but a smile to your face and to mine as well. So, thank you for sharing that. After your grandmother's passing, you became involved in PanCAN, the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network, as a volunteer. How did that happen?
So I read the Susan G. Komen book, and I read a lot. I'm a stay-at-home mom, and so I was so inspired, and I looked up pancreatic cancer, and I found I wanted to do whatever I could. I didn't know how I was going to help. I didn't know what I was qualified for, or if I would be taken seriously. So I found Roberta Luna's name
Uh-oh.
on the website, and I emailed you. And I think at first it went to spam because my last name,
Yes.
Ho. And so I followed up. I was like really intimidated, but I followed up, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Please come to our meeting. And I remember the first meeting, I walked in and I was so nervous and intimidated, and I felt so dumb. I walked out. And I remember thinking, my grandma would be so disappointed in me. So I walked back in, and I don't know why I was so nervous. Everybody was so nice to me, welcoming, and, everybody wanted to hear what I had to say, and everybody gave each other respect and courtesy. And it was like I had this whole new network of friends when I left. And over time, I felt comfort, and I had been searching for it for so long because I had been so sad. And I think I needed to kind of break away from my family and not carry the burden as a group and reach out. And I finally felt healed and I felt empowered. And this group of people turned into my family.
A family we say no one wants to be a part of, but very thankful for just the same. And we're very happy to have you, and you've done an awesome job. You are our, see if I can get this right, Purple Stride Volunteer Event Day Chair, something like
Something like that.
where you encourage people to come and volunteer for our Purple Stride and set them up in different positions that they can help and make a difference as well. So thank you. You've done an awesome job. When I don't remember the first year you became our Purple Stride event day chair, but do you remember offhand? Or I know you've
I
been doing it for a while, I believe.
I have, I think 2012 was when I started coming to meetings. So I think in 2014 is when I did the first, that was the first time I ever,
Did a Purple Stride.
yeah, so 2013 I did, well in 2012 I did registration with the Fishers.
Mhm.
And then the next year Jim asked for me to be in charge of it. And I thought, wow, that's such a big responsibility. And he really believes in me. And I'm not sure why. But, okay, I'm going to do this. Jim Fisher's asking me to do this. And he believes in, my ability. So I'm going to do it. And the next year, I remember you saying, hey, we need this. I think you can do it. And, prior to that, in my 20s, I always wanted to become more involved in fundraising and advocacy. And it was like the universe and God handing me a baton and saying, there you go. It's your turn now. And I was scared and I didn't want to do it. And I was like, I'm getting what I want. I need to go for it. And I remember having a conversation with you and Vic. And I told you, I don't want to let you down. And I remember you looking me in the eye and saying, we know you can do this. And I thought, okay, here we go. And I think I had a break in between that. I think I had a year or two that I didn't. My mother-in-law had gotten her, she had been diagnosed, and so I wasn't able to chair that year. But I attended, um, and then I think that space was open again, and so I took it.
And we're very happy you did, and very sorry though the break that you took was because your mother-in-law had been diagnosed with pancreatic cancer as well, correct?
Yeah.
Yes, I'm sure that's something you never expected after going through it once and then having your mother-in-law. Did she present with any kind of symptoms or anything, or?
So she didn't. She had been complaining of a stomach ache, and she and I became very close prior to that. And so, I'd said, you need to go to the doctor, and she was so great. She respected my opinion, and she went. She had a new doctor, and so the doctor thought, oh, it's her age, she's constipated, and so she sent her on her way. And my mother-in-law would travel back and forth from Southern California to Chicago, and to work in my brother-in-law's nail salons. I think it was more for her because she was bored. And so they would kind of just, let her do whatever she wanted. Um, and her pain got so intense while she was working, she couldn't take it. And so they took her to the hospital, and that's when they found out she had pancreatic cancer.
Did she do any treatments, or was surgery an option for her?
Surgery was not an option because by the time um, they found out she was sick, it had traveled up to her lungs. So she lit up like a Christmas tree. I mean, it was everywhere. It had metastasized, everywhere. So, they had told her, she could have treatment again to, extend her life. And my mother-in-law was a midwife in Vietnam. She was a very educated woman. And she had said, are you going to save my life? Can you cure me? And the doctor said, well, no. And she said, then I need to go home and spend time with my family, not in the hospital. And I'm, going to live up my days there.
You said she was in extreme pain. How did she manage that pain during this time?
Um, After her diagnosis or before?
Either or both is
I
good.
think she was just living through it. I
Okay.
think she was just living through it before. And after, I swore that, once I found out what was wrong with my mother in law, we moved to Chicago. Um, she wanted me to take care of her, and I wanted to also. And so I became her primary caregiver. And I swore I was not going to let her go through the same pain that my grandmother did. I just wasn't going to do it. If she wanted, whatever she wanted, I was going to do. So if she didn't want medication, of course not. But if she did, I was going to give it to her. And so she did. She did take the painkillers and the medications that the doctor prescribed for her.
And did they help? And was she able to live the life that she wanted to live?
So it helped at first. My mother-in-law didn't take many medications, so at first it altered her. She took lorazepam, and I remember she wanted to go to Cancun. So 30 of us went to Cancun, and the night before we had, given her some lorazepam so she could get used to it, and it really doped her up. And she was a small woman, and it really upset some of my husband's family. In fact, I had a brother-in-law that accused me of overdosing my mother-in-law. People act silly or act unreasonable when they're, grieving
Yeah.
and upset. Um, but she she was able to go on vacation. She couldn't do much. She tried to swim in the pool with my boys. It was really adorable. She loved watching my boys, swim, and she wanted to hold them as long as she could. So she would, hold them on her lap, let them sleep by her, whatever she could. But once we got back from vacation, I remember there was one day um, she just took a turn for the worst. It was like she had like a really good day, and I think it gave everybody hope, but I knew. And the next day it was just, it was downhill from there. It really, really was. So she managed, with certain painkillers, and I remember they weren't enough anymore. It just got to a point where even those things weren't enough.
Yes, and it's hard to watch that. You've had caregiver experience, but almost like two different types of caregivers. One, with your grandmother was totally different than with your mother-in-law. So, what helped you? How did you get through those times? That had to be tough for you.
It did, but with my grandmother, it was just simple. I wanted to be with her as much as I could. That was, you know, um, I loved her so much, and I really respected her. I just wanted to be around her, and I couldn't imagine my life without my grandmother. I thought she was going to be there for my wedding. I thought she'd be in the delivery room when I had my children. So I wanted to get every last second of her. With my mother-in-law, you know, it was an honor. When she asked me to take care of her, it was an honor. And I felt like, you know, she's asking me, she trusted me with her life, the rest of her life, the end of her life. And I thought, "Oh, this is what I'm going to do." And I became a fierce protector. I mean, I was just like on like high alert. So, if someone was doing something she didn't like or they were bothering her, she would give me this look, and I knew, and I'd be out, nope, like, oh, get out of here or knock it off. I became this fierce protector over her, and I didn't leave her side. I didn't. I would try to give people their time with her, and I just didn't want her to be alone. I didn't know how long we were going to have, and so I didn't want to risk her dying by herself. And so I would get, a little bit of sleep here and there, but I didn't want to leave her by herself. And I think it was the mutual respect and the love that got me through that. Plus, my husband is everything to me and my children. And if I can do this for them, taking care of her, then I'm going to do it, you know.
Yes. And is there a particular lesson you learned from your mother-in-law?
Yeah, everything's going to be okay. She would say, it's okay, because I would get so riled up. But even before she got sick, I would get riled up about something, and I'm such a firecracker. And she would say, it's okay. It's all going to be okay. And, it's taken time for me, but she's right. no matter what, everything is going to be okay. And so that is like the lesson, to just let things go. And, I can't control it. So, just, roll with it and smile.
That's the best advice I've heard today. I want to thank you again for coming. And each episode at the end, we like to donate. We like to dedicate it to somebody affected by pancreatic cancer. And I really would love to dedicate it to your grandmother and your mother-in-law. Would you just tell us their name, please?
Viola Galvin and Trang Huynh.
Thank you very much. There's an old, I think it's an African proverb that says, when you speak my name, I live forever. And that's one reason why we do this at the end. So very thankful to have you and share your journey. I know it's going to be difficult, but really loved hearing your story and about your grandma and your mother-in-law. But they both were Spitfires, and I see where you get it from. So thank you for joining us today. Appreciate it.
Thank you. It was a pleasure.
Well, there you have it. Another great reason to tune each and every time to our weekly journey, Living Hope, designed to provide hope, inspiration, and education for those living with pancreatic cancer, sharing the real-life stories of those really affected by this deadly disease and how they deal with it on a daily basis. And if you'd like to share your story, by all means, contact us here at OC Talk Radio. And as always, if anyone you know needs immediate help, like right now, there is a number. Just contact Patient Services at 8772-PANCAN for more help and information. That's 877, the number 2, PANCAN, for the Pancreatic Cancer Action Network. And for the OC Talk Radio Network, I'm Paul Roberts, thanking you for listening. Hoping we'll hear you again. You'll join us here again. And hoping you'll share this with somebody. That's really the power of these stories. Not just for you, but for everybody that we know. Share a story. Help a friend. Here in Orange County's only community radio station, octalkradio.net. Streaming live from our studios here at the University of California, Irvine's Beale Applied Innovation Center.